Welcome to Conversations That Awaken. This is a special series from A Course in Miracles that has inspired millions of readers around the world. Some see it as a spiritual masterpiece, others find it mysterious, challenging, or even controversial. Whatever brings you here, we invite you to leave your beliefs and your disbeliefs at the door. This is not a Bible study, this is not a sermon, and it is not about asking you to accept anyone else's truth. It is an invitation to investigate reality for yourself. I am Kim. In every episode, Joe and I will explore the text found in A Course in Miracles through 6 powerful lenses: science, philosophy, psychology, mysticism, direct experience, and everyday living. We'll ask difficult questions, we'll challenge assumptions, we'll laugh together, and we'll discover how these teachings can transform the way we see ourselves, our relationships, and the world around us. Whether you're new to A Course in Miracles or have studied it for decades, our purpose is simple: to uncover the timeless wisdom hidden beneath its words. We won't ask, what should we believe? We'll ask, what can we discover? Because awakening is not about collecting new ideas. It is about change in perception. It's about seeing clearly. It's about moving from fear to love, from separation to wholeness, from confusion to understanding. So take a deep breath, set aside everything you think you know, and join us for a special series in A Course in Miracles.
Imagine you are sitting in a conference room. A coworker, someone you've always been polite to, suddenly turns to you across the table and just starts screaming.
Oh, man, yeah.
Right. They are undermining your project. They're insulting your intelligence, actively trying to sabotage your reputation in front of the entire team.
It's the ultimate nightmare scenario for most of us.
It really is. So your heart rate spikes, your face gets hot. What is your immediate reaction? You probably try to figure out their motive. Like, are they threatened by you? Are they trying to steal your promotion? You analyze their psychology to defend yourself.
Exactly, because that's what we are taught to do.
But what if I told you that coworker isn't attacking you at all? What if, beneath the screaming and the malice, they are desperately, unconsciously begging for your help?
Wow. Yeah.
And what if the very act of trying to figure out their hidden motives is exactly what traps you in their misery?
That completely shatters the way we are taught to handle conflict.
It does.
We spent our entire adult lives learning how to read the room, how to interpret passive-aggressive emails, how to decode the hidden agendas of the people around us.
Right, because we think it keeps us safe.
Exactly. We think that by analyzing the psychological motivations of others, we are protecting ourselves. But the text we are exploring today argues that this analytical defense mechanism is actually the root cause of our suffering.
Okay, let's unpack this, because that is the incredibly challenging mission of today's deep dive.
Yeah, that's a big one.
We are unpacking a highly influential, densely philosophical text, specifically Chapter 12 of A Course in Miracles, a section titled The Holy Spirit's Curriculum.
Right.
And our goal is to really deconstruct this material and extract what is essentially a radical, ground-up rewrite of human psychology, of interpersonal conflict, and how we perceive reality itself.
It's a total paradigm shift.
It really asks us to take our deeply ingrained instinct to analyze why people do things and just throw it completely out the window, which feels so counterintuitive.
The premise introduced right at the beginning of this chapter is it's incredibly bold. It argues that analyzing the quote-unquote ego motivation of others is actively hazardous to your own state of mind.
Hazardous, like it actually hurts you.
Yes. It calls this process obscuring. The moment you start parsing out someone's complex, hidden, ego-driven agenda, like deciding that they are acting out of jealousy or spite or ambition, you fall into a psychological trap.
Oh, interesting.
You are playing on the ego's turf.
The text explains that trying to decipher someone else's ego motives is really just an ego trip of your own. Like you are trying to demonstrate your own superior ability to understand and categorize what you perceive. It's like playing armchair psychologist.
And that's what we all love to do.
Oh, completely. You sit back and say, oh, they're only lashing out because of their own insecurities, and you feel a sense of superiority in that diagnosis. But the text says there is a massive cost to that smugness.
And the cost is reality itself. What's fascinating here is when you decide someone is trying to attack you, and you respond internally or externally as if that attack is a real substantive threat, the text calls this making error real.
Making error real, oh, right.
You interpret their delusion, you grant it power, and in doing so, you completely overlook the truth of what is actually happening in that interaction. You validate the battleground.
Instead of that massive, complicated web where we try to guess everyone's motives, the text offers this strictly binary system for interpreting human behavior.
It's so simple, it's almost confronting.
It is. It claims there is only one valid way to look at the world. Every single thought, every single action from every person on Earth falls into one of two categories.
It's two.
Just two. It is either a loving thought or it is an appeal for healing and help.
Period.
That is the entire matrix. There is no third option.
If an action is not an explicit expression of love, it is a cry for help. That is a breathtakingly simple distillation, but putting it into practice, I mean, that requires a Herculean shift in perspective.
Yeah, it strips away all the nuance we usually rely on to justify our own anger.
It does.
But wait, hold on, I have to stop you there, because this is where the rubber meets the road for anyone listening.
Sure.
Let's go back to that screaming coworker, or someone being openly malicious, or someone betraying your trust. The text is seriously telling me they aren't attacking me, they are just crying for help.
That's exactly what it's saying.
That feels incredibly naive. It feels like a fast track to becoming a doormat, honestly. If someone is pointing a metaphorical gun at my career, analyzing their motives isn't an ego trip, it's survival.
I get that. And to understand why the text insists on this, we have to look at the psychological mechanics of what happens when you react to a perceived attack with anger or defense.
Okay, walk me through that.
If you respond to a brother's plea for help, which is how the framework demands we view the screaming coworker,
Right.
if you respond with anger, you are assuming the right to attack their reality. You are saying your delusion that we are enemies is correct, and I will now engage with you as an enemy.
Wow. Okay, so you validate their sickness.
Exactly.
If I get mad, I'm confirming that their attack is real. I'm taking the bait. Which means I believe in the attack just as much as they do. So in that moment, my mind is just as deluded as theirs.
The phrasing the text uses is that you are pitting one level of your mind against another.
Yeah.
Think about the internal state of a person who is constantly analyzing threats and defending themselves.
Exhausting.
It is. Even if they control their outward behavior, like even if you just smile politely at the hostile coworker while plotting your revenge.
Which we've all done.
Right. Internally, you are at war. You are deeply divided. You are engaging in an endless, exhausting battle with reality. The text suggests that recognizing that attack purely as a call for help and offering the willingness to give that help is the only conceivable way to protect the integrity of your own mind.
It says, to fail to recognize a call for help is to refuse help. By refusing to see their underlying need, you are essentially declaring that you don't need help either, which traps both of you in the illusion of conflict.
That shared trap creates the baseline strain of our daily lives. The anxiety, the burnout, the constant low-level hum of stress.
Right.
The text argues that reality itself evokes zero conflict. Therefore, if you are experiencing strain, you are attempting to interpret a situation in a way that fundamentally clashes with reality.
You are choosing to see a threat where there's only a desperate plea for connection and healing.
Yes.
But if the anger and hostility we see radiating from other people is just a confused cry for help, it forces us to look in the mirror.
Oh, absolutely.
Because what about our own internal negative emotions? What about the sheer paralyzing terror we feel about our health, our finances, our children? This brings us to a massive deconstruction of fear and sickness within the text.
The curriculum turns the lens inward seamlessly. If you are going to interpret the attacks of others as calls for love, you must apply the exact same criteria to your own internal landscape.
So my anxiety isn't real either.
Right. Your own anxieties and fears are not profound truths about the universe. They are simply your own mind crying out for love.
The text defines fear in a very specific way. It's not a primary foundational emotion. It calls fear a symptom of a deep sense of loss.
Yes.
But it takes it a step further, crossing into what feels like pure metaphysics. It claims that fear literally does not exist.
It labels fear a false emotion. The text states that fear was manufactured out of denial. It has no independent existence. It relies entirely on your continued belief in what is being denied.
Okay, so it's like a shadow.
Exactly. Fear acts as a veil drawn across the face of love. It is a manufactured fog.
And sickness gets the exact same treatment.
It does.
The text frames physical and mental sickness as a fundamental lack of self-love. It argues that if to love oneself is to heal oneself, then those who are sick are actively denying themselves healing love.
Which is a heavy concept.
It is. So the job of the miracle worker, which is the text's term for someone practicing this new curriculum, is simply to deny the denial of truth.
Deny the denial. It registers as a clunky double negative at first, but the psychology behind it is profound.
Yeah, let's break that down.
Okay, so the truth is the light. Your inherent safety, your connection to reality, to love, the fear, the panic attack, the stress over the mortgage, that is the denial of the light.
That's the fog.
Right, it is the fog. To deny the denial means you must look directly at the fog and recognize it has no actual substance. You refuse to believe the fog has the power to extinguish the light.
Because the light inside you, or inside a sick person, shines with exact equal brightness regardless of the density of the fog obscuring it.
Exactly.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The text uses this deeply evocative analogy of children's nightmares to explain how we give the fog its power.
It's such a good analogy.
It pictures a terrified child in bed, convinced there are monsters in the room, pulling a heavy blanket over their head. By hiding in the dark under the covers, they actually preserve the nightmare.
Right, they save it in this state of false certainty. The darkness under the blanket allows the monster to remain real in their imagination.
The child is terrified of what is out there, but by refusing to look, they guarantee their own continued terror. They protect the fear.
They do.
But if they throw the covers off, the text says the reality of nothingness cannot be frightening. When you actually look at the dark corner of the room, you realize there is nothing there. It was only the anticipation of the monster that was causing the terror. The moment you expose it to the light, the fear evaporates.
This illustrates the core concept of translating error into truth. In this framework, the Holy Spirit's role isn't to comfort you by saying, I know the monsters are scary, but I will protect you.
Right, because that would mean the monsters are real.
Exactly. That would validate the monster. The role of the teacher is to reinterpret the fear entirely. If fear only exists because you protect it, because you give it utility and hide it under a mental blanket, then the only way out is exposure.
Exposing the fear to the light of truth makes it meaningless.
You undermine its perceived usefulness by rendering it completely useless.
So we have to actively strip the utility away from our own panic. We have to stop using it.
Yes. The text is adamant that you must not give power to the fog. If you grant the fog no power to obscure the light, it has none.
Because power belongs to reality, to God.
Right. If you find yourself giving power to the fog of fear or allowing sickness to dictate your state of mind, you must consciously withdraw that power. You have to remember that the illusion cannot overpower reality unless you actively supply it with the energy to do so.
Okay, let's unpack this logically. We have this fog of fear. We know intellectually that it's just a symptom of loss, and we know we are supposed to withdraw our power from it. Why is it so incredibly hard to do?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right. Why do we violently cling to the heavy blanket instead of just turning on the light? The text answers this by exploring how we invest our mental energy, breaking it down into two competing curriculums.
It outlines two distinct educational paths for the human mind, two completely different operating systems. And the first is the ego's curriculum.
And the central defining rule of the ego's curriculum is so dark, but it explains so much of human behavior. The rule is simply seek and do not find.
It is an operating system guaranteed to produce failure. The ego demands that you embark on a frantic, desperate search for love, validation, and salvation in the external world. It tells you to seek it in your career, in your romantic relationships, in your bank account, in your social status. But it attaches a hidden, non-negotiable proviso. You will never recognize salvation when you find it.
Because if you actually found permanent resting peace, the ego would be out of a job. It would be obsolete.
It would face total annihilation.
Yeah.
The ego requires conflict and lack to maintain its existence.
Oh.
So it constantly distorts love.
It moves the goalposts.
Exactly. You get the promotion you thought would make you happy, and the ego immediately tells you that you actually need the next promotion to be truly secure.
Oh, man, yeah.
It sets you on an exhausting journey that must inevitably end in self-defeat and depression because the finish line is a mirage. The text literally calls the ego's curriculum a course in how to attack yourself.
A course in how to attack yourself. That hits hard when you think about the hedonic treadmill of modern life. We just keep running.
We do.
In total contrast, you have the Holy Spirit's curriculum, which is a rule that is almost deceptively simple. Seek and you will find.
Right.
Under this guidance, failure is impossible because the goal is internal. The goal is undivided love and a return to reality, which you already possess. But what really stopped me in my tracks in this section was how the text completely redefines the concept of poverty.
Oh, the redefinition of poverty is a crucial psychological shift here.
It states that the poor are not the people struggling to pay rent or those with empty bank accounts. The poor are those who have invested wrongly.
Right.
They have invested their mental and spiritual capital into the ego's curriculum. They have poured their life force into an illusion.
Because they have invested wrongly, they experience a profound sense of lack, regardless of their material wealth. According to this framework, there is truly only one lack, because there is only one real need.
The need for love.
Yes, the need for love, for connection to reality. When you identify with the ego, you attack your own peace of mind, and you make yourself spiritually bankrupt.
This sets up what is arguably the most challenging, counterintuitive piece of practical advice in the entire reading. The text addresses how to handle people who demand things from you.
This part always gets people.
Oh, for sure. It suggests that if a brother makes an outrageous request of you, you should just do it. And the reasoning is wild. You should do it because it does not matter.
Right.
It argues that if you feel that quick, hot flush of opposition, if you dig your heels in and insist on refusing, your very opposition establishes that the issue does matter to you.
Your insistence proves your investment in the illusion.
Okay, let's really test this, because in the real world, this sounds insane. If a neighbor demands I give them my car, or a boss demands I work a month for free, every instinct I have, every self-help book I've ever read says, set a boundary, defend yourself, do not be a victim.
Of course.
How in the world is giving in to something outrageous the path to psychological freedom?
Yeah.
How does fighting back prove I care too much about the illusion?
If we connect this to the bigger picture the text is building, it all comes down to what you believe needs saving and the mechanism by which you believe it can be saved.
Okay.
When someone makes an outrageous demand and you experience that immediate visceral response of anger and opposition, you are operating under a specific belief. You believe that your ego, your identity, or your safety is genuinely threatened, and that it must be saved via attack or rigid defense.
So I am validating the battleground. I am agreeing that the car or the money or the pride is the source of my safety.
You are agreeing with the attacker's fundamental premise that there is something real and valuable to fight over in the physical world. The text notes, insistence means investment.
Insistence means investment.
Right. If you invest in the ego's notion of salvation, that you're only safe if you control your borders and protect your stuff, you exchange self-love for self-hate.
Wow.
You feel perpetually deprived and threatened. And then, because the split mind is intolerable, you try to handle that internal anxiety by making an insane arrangement with the outside world.
What does that look like in practice? Like an insane arrangement?
It looks like saying, if I just defend my boundaries fiercely enough, if I arrange the people in my life to behave exactly how I want, if I control the situation perfectly, then I will finally be safe.
You project your internal conflict outward.
Exactly. So when someone asks something outrageous of you, the reason the text says do it because it does not matter is because the physical thing they're asking for, the car, the money, the time, is part of the illusion. It holds no actual salvation.
Okay, I see.
Refusing it with anger only reinforces the delusion that the physical world holds the key to your peace. A mind that recognizes what is truly valuable, its own inherent peace and invulnerability, cannot be threatened by an outrageous request because it knows its true treasure cannot be taken away.
It's a philosophy of radical non-attachment.
Very much so.
It echoes older spiritual traditions. You know, if someone demands your coat, give them your shirt as well, because the fabric isn't the point. Your reaction to the demand is the point.
Precise.
Which forces us to look at the tool we constantly use to defend those boundaries, attack. If we want to break free from this exhausting curriculum of seeking without finding, the text says we have to understand the myth of vulnerability. We have to realize why attack is completely useless.
The text is unambiguous on the nature of strength and weakness. It states that only love is strong, because only love is unified and undivided. Attack, in any form, is inherently a symptom of weakness.
There is a piercing psychological insight here. It says, before the idea of attack can enter your mind, you must have perceived yourself as weak.
Yes.
You only lash out if you feel you're at a disadvantage. You attack to equalize a situation where you feel small.
Think about a person who is truly deeply secure in their own worth and power. If a toddler walks up and kicks them in the shin, they don't draw a sword and try to destroy the toddler.
Right. They might correct the behavior, but they don't feel internally threatened.
Exactly. The text argues that we attacked ourselves first, by separating from reality and choosing the ego. We believe that separation was a successful attack on God, So we view ourselves as weakened and guilty.
We see ourselves and our brothers as unequal combatants fighting over scarce resources.
Yes, and we try to fix that terrible imbalance through further attack.
But the restoration of sanity requires recognizing your own absolute, unassailable invulnerability. The curriculum states that if you are truly invulnerable, which you are because you are part of reality, then your attacks on yourself and the attacks of others on you have absolutely no real effect.
None.
The text says plainly, nothing really happened. The insult, the betrayal, the financial loss in the realm of eternity, it didn't do any actual damage to what you are.
It's a hard pill to swallow, but yes.
So by attacking back, you aren't defending anything real. You are just mashing buttons on a broken console.
That realization is the only way to stop the cycle. You have to recognize the utter uselessness of attack. And the text points out a fascinating psychological trap. You can never learn that attack is useless by attacking others.
Why? Because they react.
Yes, because they will inevitably react. If they perceive your attack, they will flinch or cry or attack back.
Yeah.
Your ego interprets their reaction as proof that your attack worked. It had an effect. It moved the needle.
So how do you break a loop that constantly reinforces itself?
The text provides the answer. The only place you can cancel out all reinforcement is in yourself. You are always the first point of your own attack. You have to refuse to react to the illusion.
So what does this all mean? The analogy that keeps coming to my mind to visualize this is, imagine you are playing a wildly stressful video game.
All right?
You're in a brutally difficult level, your health bar is flashing red, enemies are swarming you, and you are frantically mashing the attack buttons just to survive.
Right, pure stress.
You are sweating, your heart is pounding, you're in pure fight or flight mode. But then you pause the game and enter a cheat code. You turn on God mode.
Oh, nice.
You suddenly have infinite health. You are completely invincible. What happens to your physical reaction in that moment?
Well, the panic completely drains out of your body.
Exactly. You stop aggressively mashing the buttons. Why would you keep frantically attacking? There is no threat anymore. An enemy hits you and you just shrug.
You walk calmly through the chaos of the level.
Right. Realizing your invulnerability makes the frantic need to attack totally obsolete. You only fight when you think you can die.
That is a perfect visualization of the mental shift the curriculum is demanding. And the text highlights that this realization has a profound positive value. It doesn't just mean you become passive or apathetic. It proves to you that you are inherently strong.
Right.
You realize you don't need to dominate others or equalize a situation to establish your strength. Your strength is a given. But to get to that point of quiet confidence, you have to overcome the tragedy of the split mind.
The text refers to the split mind as a poor learner.
It's a tragic state. A split mind made itself a poor learner because it intentionally set up a curriculum designed to fail. It tried to learn how not to learn truth.
Which is wild to think about.
It is. And that is why the text insists you cannot be your own teacher in this process. A poor learner, saddled with self-imposed learning handicaps, needs a special teacher, which the text calls the Holy Spirit.
You need a guide who can transcend your limited, panicked resources.
Exactly, and provide constant, clear-cut direction from outside the ego's matrix. You literally have to resign as your own teacher.
Resign as your own teacher. Stop trying to figure it out with the same broken tool that caused the problem in the first place.
Yes.
Let's trace the path forward from there. Let's say you do it, you resign. You stop attacking. You drop the ego's exhausting curriculum. You stop frantically seeking what you don't actually want to find.
Okay.
What happens next? How does your day-to-day experience of the world change? This brings us to the culmination of the chapter, a concept it calls looking within and the vision of Christ.
This section lays bare the raw mechanics of human perception. The text gives us a foundational, inescapable rule. You see what you expect, and you expect what you invite.
It is the ultimate mirror. The text says you must look in before you look out.
The world you see outside is merely a projection of what you have accepted inside your own mind. If you look out and see a hostile, terrifying world full of enemies, it is because you have accepted hostility and fear internally.
Wow.
And the ego's ultimate goal for what you accept inside is deeply disturbing. The text describes the ego's endgame as the death penalty.
Okay, we need to bridge this carefully because the language here shifts from practical psychology into very intense theology.
It does.
It says the ego views you as a traitor to God. It labels you a criminal who deserves torment and death, and it systematically undoes you through guilt. Why does a text about psychology suddenly start using terms like the death penalty and betrayal of God?
Because it is trying to articulate the absolute deepest, darkest layer of human anxiety. Think about the most profound imposter syndrome or that lingering, irrational sense of self-loathing we all battle.
Like that feeling that if people truly knew you, they would reject you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That feeling that you are fundamentally flawed, that you don't deserve happiness, and that eventually the other shoe is going to drop and you will be punished. The text uses the metaphor of betraying God to describe this primal guilt.
Okay.
The ego convinces you that by separating from reality, you committed a cosmic crime, and therefore you deserve death.
The ego keeps you feeling guilty, so you will stay paralyzed and listen to its voice.
Yes, it wants to destroy you as the final expression of its hatred, but it keeps you alive just to await the punishment, torturing you with anxiety in the meantime.
That is the chaotic, fearful world we project when we are aligned with the ego's curriculum. As the text states, the world you made is totally chaotic, made out of what you do not want, projected from your mind because you are afraid of it.
But this raises an important question.
Yeah, it forces us to ask a really uncomfortable question. If we are projecting a world made out of what we don't want, a world of stress, conflict, and sickness, why are we doing it?
Right.
Why would anyone actively project their own nightmares?
The text provides a chilling psychological insight to answer that. It says, when you think you are projecting what you do not want, it is still because you do want it.
Wait, we want the nightmare, we want the stress and the conflict.
On a deeply unconscious level, yes, because we want to maintain the illusion of separation. We want our individual special ego to exist, and the ego needs conflict to survive. This creates massive cognitive dissociation. You accept two mutually exclusive goals. You want love, but you also want separation.
And you can't have both.
You can't. But because holding those two goals together would fracture your mind completely, you project the conflict outward to maintain an illusion of integrity. You see a divided, warring world outside yourself, so you can deny the devastating division within yourself.
So how does the Holy Spirit's curriculum actually fix that dissociation?
By entirely undoing the underlying guilt. By teaching you that you never actually betrayed reality. The separation never truly happened. You are still safe in the unified mind.
Okay.
To be healed, the text says, is to pursue only one goal. When you stop wanting separation and want only love, you will see nothing else.
Your perception perfectly reflects your invitation.
Yes. If you invite only love, you will manifest love, and you will see everyone around you as messengers of that love.
And when perception becomes that singularly focused, that holy, the text says something almost beyond words happens. Perception naturally extends into knowledge. The physical, divided, chaotic dream world we think is so real simply blends into the purpose of God. The real world, stripped of our fearful projections, slips quietly into heaven.
Because what is fundamentally one cannot be perceived as separate. The denial of the separation reinstates your eternal knowledge of unity. Love transfers to love without any interference from the ego.
That actually perfectly tees up an observation I had at the very end of this reading. After all the heavy psychological deconstruction, there is this beautiful, almost gravitational concept described in the final paragraph.
Oh, I know the one you mean.
The text says, the attraction of love for love remains irresistible. It says it is the function of love to unite all things unto itself and to hold all things together.
It's a very powerful centering image, the cosmic pulling together of all fractured pieces.
It really is. So let's zoom out for a second and summarize the massive journey we just took, because this text really demands a complete rewiring of the brain's operating system.
It takes some time to digest.
It does. We started by looking at how we must view every single angry outburst, every slight, every betrayal, not as a threat to be analyzed, but strictly as a hidden cry for help.
Right. We move from there to recognizing that our own internal fear and sickness are just a fog, a denial of truth that only possesses the power we actively choose to give it.
We examine the two curriculums, realizing that we have to drop the ego's frantic, doomed treadmill of endlessly seeking without finding. We saw that insisting on our boundaries and fighting back against outrageous requests just proves we're overly invested in an illusion.
We recognize the myth of our own vulnerability. We turned on God mode to realize that because our true nature cannot be hurt, the instinct to attack is utterly useless and counterproductive.
And finally, we talked about taking control of our inner projections, realizing that we always look in before we look out, and that by abandoning guilt and choosing only one goal, love, we can escape the ego's death penalty and perceive a unified reality.
It's a lot.
It is. But the practical takeaway here for anyone listening, the learner just trying to navigate a highly stressful week, is profound. The next time you feel attacked, whether it's an aggressive email from a boss, a passive-aggressive comment from a relative, or just a driver cutting you off in traffic, try, just for 10 seconds, to translate that error into truth. Look past the hostility and see it purely as a request for healing. Watch what happens to your own heart rate and your own stress levels when you refuse to validate the attack.
It is the ultimate de-escalation technique, not just for the external situation, but for your own nervous system. You keep the integrity of your own mind perfectly intact. You refuse to enter the fog.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. Something that builds on this text, but takes it to a slightly different place.
Okay, lay it on me.
I mentioned that quote a minute ago, the attraction of love for love remains irresistible, and how its function is to hold all things together.
Right.
If we take this literally, not just as beautiful spiritual poetry, but as a description of actual physical reality, could what we perceive in the universe as fundamental physical forces be the exact same mechanism? Think about gravity holding planets and galaxies in orbit. Think about the strong nuclear force holding the very atoms of our bodies together so we don't just dissipate into dust.
Wow.
What if the physical laws of the universe are just this attraction of love for love working on a cosmic scale? What if gravity is literally just the physical manifestation of love, constantly, irresistibly trying to pull the illusion of separation back into a single unified mass of reality?
That is a staggering thought. The entire physical universe operating as a manifestation of a spiritual imperative toward unity.
It makes you look up at the stars a little differently, doesn't it?
It really does.
And it brings us right back to where we started. We spend so much time looking closely at the fractures. We analyze the breaks in our relationships, the hostility in our offices, the chaos in the world. We look for the jagged edges.
Always looking for the flaws.
Right. But maybe instead of obsessing over the fractures and trying to figure out why they are broken, we just need to look at the invisible force that is constantly trying to hold the whole thing together.
We have to deny the denial of truth.
Pull the heavy blankets off, turn on the light, and see what is really there.
Thank you for listening. If today's conversation resonated with you, please take a moment to like this episode, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who may benefit from these reflections on A Course in Miracles and the deeper questions of life. Your support allows us to continue creating conversations that explore consciousness, reality, love, forgiveness, and what it truly means to awaken. I'm Kim Kaur, and it is my privilege to introduce Jo Bandra. Jo is an author, philosopher, speaker, healthcare technology pioneer, and a lifelong explorer of humanity's greatest questions. For more than 3 decades, he has worked at the intersection of science and medicine while pursuing an equally passionate exploration of A Course in Miracles. His first book, Finding Neve, is a transformative journey into self-discovery and the search for lasting happiness. His second book, Body, Mind, and Machine, shares his remarkable career in healthcare technology and the evolution of a profession dedicated to improving human lives. His upcoming work, The Nature of Reality, brings together science, philosophy, psychology, mysticism, and direct experience to explore one of humanity's oldest questions. What is reality really? Through every conversation, Jo invites us to question our assumptions, look beyond appearances, and discover a deeper understanding of ourselves, each other, and the extraordinary universe we share. Thank you for being part of this journey. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and above all, keep awakening.
Life often feels like an endless list of tasks, constant noise and distractions, pulling us in every direction. We're all searching for happiness, but what if we've been looking in the wrong places all along?
This was Nevaeh's journey. Lost in the noise, she felt cut off from the peace and happiness she longed for, until she met Jo Bandra, an unconventional, insightful philosopher with a different perspective. Jay, as he is simply known, didn't hand her a map. He gave her something far more valuable, a compass, a way to turn inward, navigate her own thoughts, and uncover the clarity hidden beneath the chaos.
Readers around the world have been touched and inspired by Finding Nevaeh.
Your journey to inner peace begins now. Get your copy of Finding Nevaeh, available on Amazon and at findingnevaeh.org, or listen to the audiobook on Audible, Spotify, Apple, and other platforms.